Hey everyone, welcome back to the Not Just Politics podcast. The following conversation is the second episode of our Bridge USA podcast series. The topics covered were whether or not we should put age and term limits on elected members of Congress, AI regulation, whether or not we should re-elect Joe Biden as president, and whether or not the United States should continue to provide aid to Israel and Ukraine and other geopolitical conflicts around the world. This was a really great conversation, and I hope you enjoy. Before we get started, one quick announcement. Our Bridge USA chapter is looking for executive board members. We will take help pretty much wherever we can get it. So if you would like to help us, just reach out, DM me or Gavin, email us, and we'll work something out with you. Thanks, everybody.
I find that crazy.
All right, guys, welcome. Bridge podcast number 2. We made it. Can we get introductions? Because I forgot to do that last time. And I do this every week. So can we start on the end there with Alex, and then we'll go down to Trevor.
Gotcha. Hello, I'm Alex Zonizer. I am a broadcast production and media management major and a minor in screenwriting, and I'm a junior.
At Point Park.
Yeah, at Point Park.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Patrick Sullivan. I'm a senior at Point Park. I major in intelligence and national security, and I minor in criminal justice.
Returning
Point Park.
Returning guest.
Returning guest, yeah.
Returning guest. And also for the people out there saying that Alex looks like Clumsy the Clown, enough of this. We debunked that rumor
Screw
months
Clumsy.
ago.
I hate that dude.
Get out of here with that. Anyway, to get back into this, Cade.
I'm Cade Hissong. I'm a sports arts and entertainment management major at Point Park University, and I guess we're saying we're seniors.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. This is like the syllabus in the classroom at the beginning.
In class.
One interesting fact about all of you. Returning guest. And Trevor?
Yeah, so my name's Trevor. I'm a senior at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm a political science, economics, and communications major.
And just for some transparency, Trevor is a member of Bridge USA at
yeah.
University of Pittsburgh. Okay, I don't think I have to go over this with all four of you, but just so that we do it for the episode. Rules of discussion: you are allowed to go after ideas. You do not go after character. We actively listen, not just listening to respond. No person here represents their identity group, so you represent you and you alone. And well, that's, I think, all of them. I may have forgot one, and that's messed up.
Were we
but
supposed to declare our political affiliation?
no, you're actually not supposed
Okay.
to. No, not supposed to, because this is my show,
Okay.
and what I say goes.
Because he said so.
Because I said so.
Because he's the boss.
All right. For the people listening, we will be discussing 4 topics today. I threw all 4 of them in just because some of the other ones may end up being a bit shorter than I expected. We will be discussing, in no particular order, artificial intelligence, implementation of technology, regulation, etc. Should we re-elect Joe Biden, yes or no, and sort of evaluating his presidency. We'll be discussing age limits and term limits for elected members of Congress. And we will be discussing United States aid to Israel, Palestine, and also to Ukraine. With that being said, would anyone like to start with one of these first? Alex.
Yeah. So,
Which topic would you like to...
let's start out with the re-electing Joe Biden.
Okay.
I saw, because I was just scrolling on my phone last night, looking at different news articles, and I saw this one article, I forget who it was, but he was saying that something about Joe Biden, and it was like about his his mental state, and it was saying how at one point Joe Biden had forgotten that his son Beau died, and that he was ever vice president. So I could bring up the article, but I just found that was very interesting. So how about we let that kick us off?
Yeah. Any other initial thoughts? Because I do have questions, but I'll let you guys give initial thoughts first.
I think it depends on if re-electing Joe Biden, the conversation depends on if we're talking about in the reality of our options or in an ideal society where we can elect third parties or write in as it really has any power. So, there's 2 ways to look at that question.
Any thoughts, Trevor?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to put it because honestly, Nikki Haley's still in the race, but the options are really just Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You could talk about RFK, but I don't know how his poll numbers are doing.
I don't
but,
think he's doing great compared to either Trump or
Yeah, I
Biden,
don't think-
or really Nikki Haley.
I think good numbers for him. If he gets 10% of the vote, he's
I
in.
agree.
Like that's on the high end of what he can get.
He's
I think
reminded me
I-
of like a Ross Perot kind of candidate, like
Yeah.
from the 90s he ran. Yeah.
I think all I really know is that he does have a higher polling number with independents than either Biden or Trump does.
Yeah.
But that's just independents. I don't know about whole country. Pat, any other thoughts you got on this?
Yeah, I think this, like the topic of reelecting Joe Biden, really ties into the topic of like age limits for Congress. Like if we're doing age limits for Congress, there be age limits on presidency? Because like you said, like,
Good question.
his
Yeah.
like mental
Mental
state has become
is-
increasingly in the spotlight lately, and even within the last couple of days I've seen that there were classified documents found in Joe Biden's personal residence, and then there was like I'm like, oh, this
Well, I was going to say that's the report that just came out yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're referencing, I think it's the Her report.
Yeah,
I don't know
think
if
it
that's
was
the
part
name
of
of like
that.
the attorney that worked on it,
I
but
think it was her.
they're questioning about the classified files that were found in his house a year ago. They were looking into the legality of it, if he should face any legal issues due to those files being seen. And the report, which is like 300 pages, I only saw like news. I didn't actually read it, but I like saw summaries.
I mean,
about
what
it.
are we doing with this? Like,
It-
hey, here's a report I wrote. It's 500 pages.
That's-
Read it by
Yeah.
tomorrow.
That's government
But, like,
reports at its
It's
finest.
scary
Right?
in the report because they say he's like an elderly man. He has bad like in the report it says he might have forgot when his son died. He forgot the term of like when he was vice president. So it's concerning seeing these things. His memory's lacking in recent years, and you could see it when he goes like on stage, like when he answers questions, like to the response to the report, he mixed up the president of Mexico and Egypt, like which are more simple things that you get a little more concerned about. So his age is showing, and like age limits. That's something to honestly consider.
I do think it is showing, and in regards to the classified documents thing, like the report was saying like they're not taking this to trial. Like there's going to be no criminal charges being pressed, which that I've seen a lot of people are very angry about that, and a lot of people are in support about that, which I feel like that's a completely other topic of conversation. But one of the reasonings was because if he went in front of a jury, they were afraid he would present himself as an elderly man with severe memory loss and stuff like that, which I could understand that if it was like a low-level court, but then we're talking about the President of the United States. And if you... I think it's sad personally. I've had members of my family who have had, Alzheimer's, dementia, and it's sad because I see the signs of it up there, and it's I feel bad for his family and stuff like that. But like, I feel like when you're a world leader, you can't be in power if you're suffering from this sort of memory loss, consistency, and stuff like that, especially if you're one of the most powerful leaders in the world, because then that, allies and stuff like that are going to begin to question, is this beneficial for us or something like that.
Right. Kay, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I think if you look at our three most likely to win candidates, what we got, I'd say Bobby Kennedy Jr., Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. None of which, when I hear them talk, do they sound like the sharpest person. Like everyone, I don't know if everyone else has seen the pictures of Bobby Kennedy Jr. doing push-ups without his shirt on. I'm like, great, that doesn't prove mental fitness. That
Yeah.
proves he might be on steroids because at his age, science says you can't build muscle. So I'm like, I'm watching all of this. If it's up to me, none of them are qualified to be the president. And then when we talk about whether Biden should have been punished for the classified documents, we've known this for a while. Hillary should be punished. Trump should be punished. Biden. They all should have had something be done. But we tend to seem to look the other way for one reason or another.
Yeah. I think in the topic of, or talking about possible people in the office, I think I've seen, everybody, what they're running on, what they want to say they're going to do and stuff like that. I mean, we've seen Biden's polling numbers, like they're down, and they're down bad. Like I can't remember somebody who's had this bad polling numbers in a long time. When you're talking about, was it Robert Kennedy, right? Or Bobby Kennedy?
Robert, Bobby.
He,
I think either. Right?
yeah, he's a weird one. I feel like if on his running platform, at least I've seen some of his speeches and stuff like that, and some of the things he says, like Trump says a lot of crazy shit, but Bobby Kennedy has said some stuff, and I'm like, I really feel like he's an independent, right? That's what he's running
I think
on?
He's
running as
for
an independent.
He's running as
Is
an
he
independent or
He was
libertarian?
originally trying to challenge Joe Biden as in the Democratic primary, but he was
Okay.
getting no traction, so he decided to switch over.
He switched. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. Like in one of his speeches, he went on this rant how if he became president, he was going to defund and dismantle the Central Intelligence Agency.
Well, that was a JFK thing back when he was
Yeah.
president too.
Yeah, is
And
Buddy
I
is
think-
Buddy trying to get taken out?
That's
Well,
like-
it's as like
You know, well, I don't want to get lost in the weeds here on RFK. Let's bounce back to Joseph Biden. What grade would all of you give the first term of Biden being president? What grade does he get?
oh,
B minus.
B minus from Cade.
I'd give
Okay,
him a C.
why?
I'd give him a C.
I think so too. I'd give him a C.
Okay, so Cade, why are you giving Biden a B minus, which is real close to a C? What is the separating factor here?
So I was bouncing between C and B minus, but for me, C would be an average presidency, and I do think he has gotten a good amount done with what you can do within the confines of getting the votes in the Senate and the House. So I think he's done a little bit better than average, especially his first couple years weigh a little heavier for me in the positive side of things.
Okay. Trevor, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's weird for Biden because I think he's done a lot of good, and he's not handled every issue with the best way. Obviously, I think when it came to like withdrawing from Afghanistan, not a good job, not a good look on our country.
Yeah.
And people forget about that. That was a major war going on for 20 years. But then you have aspects like the Chips and Science Act, which I think a majority of Americans would endorse, support. You have actions like the American Restoration Act, the Infrastructure Acts, that he was trying to update American infrastructure. He's also brought us back to the Paris Climate Accords, which I think is really important, which Trump took us out. Like, we literally officially, I know Trump announced in 2017 that we were going to leave. We officially left on 2020, and Biden, like, in his first 100 days, brought us back. So, like, literally we're only out for 1 year. So I think there's a lot of good and bad to look at. I also fully support how he's handling Ukraine right now. I mean, I think the government has officially sent $75 billion, whether it's humanitarian aid or military aid. And I think we got to support one of our democratic allies in Europe.
Yeah.
We can't allow for another nation to go in. So there's some aspects I fully endorse. Some things I don't think he's doing the best job with. But I think giving him a B is honestly a good score in my opinion. Maybe a B minus. I think you were right there.
And we'll get more to the foreign aid later on in the program.
Yeah. I'd say a C. I mean, a big thing, I'm like a foreign policy guy. Like, that's a lot of the stuff I look at. And I mean, like you said, Afghanistan. Trump came out of office, Biden was coming in, and I was like, let's see, like, Biden, career politician, let's see how this he was an older guy coming in already. So I'm like, we're going to see how this goes. Like, who knows, right? And then, what was it? Not even 6 months in, that Afghanistan debacle. And I was like, oh, yikes, right? Like, Afghanistan was already a gradual pullout. Like, we've been pulling out of Afghanistan since like 2016. Like, Obama started that, and then Trump continued it, and then Biden came in and just sort of pulled the rug out from under it, and then, it was a shitstorm.
Yeah.
I do commend him for, the foreign aid stuff he's done. I think that, like you said, we're going to get into that later, but I think that is a big role. But not a huge fan on some of the ways that he's handled some of the other international things. Like
what?
You're looking now with Houthi strikes or, strikes that our forces have had in bases in Iraq and Syria, where those bases have been pummeled for months.
I think in Jordan too.
Yeah, Jordan.
There's been some
Our
stuff.
bases have been getting hit. Now nobody's been killed
Mm-hmm.
up until recently. Yeah. It's all been concussions or fragmentation injuries and stuff like that. But nonetheless, American forces have been being attacked, and we're sitting in these bases like ducks in a barrel.
Yeah.
And, we keep getting drone struck and cruise missiles and all these attacks, and we're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we like to say that we're the powerhouse of the world, but then our guys are getting hit and we're not doing anything about it. Mm-hmm. But then we'll go to Iran and we're like, oh, we don't want a wide scale war. That's allowing Iran or other proxy groups to keep pushing us, because in their eyes they see it as we don't want a conflict, so they're going to keep going, because clear to them we don't want a conflict, so we're just going to keep backing up, and they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. That leaves a bad message with a lot of other potential bad actors in the world that are growing. Like, if
and then wrap it up here, Pat.
Yeah,
real quick.
I'm just not a huge fan of some of the ways he's handled recent foreign policy things, especially in the Middle East.
And Alex, anything else to add to that? I think you said you also gave him a C.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you. Recent things within the Middle East, with all the strikes and whatnot, not a big fan of that. And with Afghanistan, I thought that was pretty bad.
Alex Zonizer makes an official report. Airstrikes bad. People getting attacked, not good. Let the official record show that.
Yes.
Okay. And
but I think he's done an all right job, all things considered.
We've sort of mentioned along there with giving him grades. We sort of mentioned the good and the bad. Just to give anyone a final. I'm sorry. That was just me reading a question twice. I mean, that's just not great. That's just not great. Okay, so here's my question. With all of this stuff happening around the world, with Biden being in office, with just a lot of global activity happening, he's losing a lot of numbers in the polls because of his stance on Israel. Do any of you think that Joe Biden will change his tune because of any of this as we get closer to the 2024 election?
Specifically Israel?
Yeah, I guess his stance with Israel is the big one that he's losing a lot of polling numbers over right now. I imagine that he lost potentially some poll numbers over the Ukraine situation. It seems like he's gone through a few situations in the last couple of years that he's losing support for. So I guess my question is, do you think we'll start to see him? Will he change his stance on Israel, do you think, if that means winning the...
So. But he is definitely losing support amongst the more progressive base in the Democratic Party.
The younger people especially.
Because you'll see on college campuses, I don't know what you guys have seen at Point Park, but at University of Pittsburgh there have been protests weekly.
Yeah.
It's been pretty quiet at Point Park, but Pitt has had some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's been bad at larger, more prestigious universities like UPenn. Cool. There was there's crazy stuff going on at UPenn. I think... we're going to talk about this later, but Ukraine, I feel like people sort of start to forget about that because, Israel's the big thing now. Yeah. It's a shame, but the American public has a very short memory span when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
We just go from one thing to another.
Yeah, it's real quick.
We completly forget about
that's why I wanted to bring up Afghanistan, because I see no one talk about it.
No one talks about it.
No
one now.
I mean, I know it was now actually almost 3 years ago, but still, I mean, that was a huge debacle.
Yeah.
So...
it's a debacle, and not only that, but now there is a terrorist organization in control of an entire country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was a war that lasted for my entire life. That's what I tell people is from the minute that I was born, we were over there, and it was my entire life.
We are global war on terror babies.
We kind of are. Yeah, it's an interesting thing about Gen Z is that we're dealing with this. We have and I don't mean to get lost in the weeds, but it's we don't look at violence in the same way because it was normalized with us so quickly. But anyway, carrying on.
Could I, by any chance, pick up on Biden changing his tune real quick?
Of course.
Whatever you do in Israel is a lose-lose with the left. I mean, because you either get those old-school liberals who support Israel. I believe Bill Maher being one of them, those old-school liberals. Mm-hmm. You're either going to win them over by being pro-Israel, or you're going to win over the youth by being pro-Palestine, and not even all of us. So like you're going to leave somebody severely pissed off either way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just to hop on what you said real quick, I feel like the lose-lose in Israel is that, I feel like especially the American public, when the youth don't really know like the situation in Israel.
Which we don't, by the way.
Yeah, not even like what's currently going on.
I have no idea.
I mean,
Well,
like the historical background of this Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Like it's a very complex conflict, but I feel like no one really knows what it is, and people are sort of hopping in the social trend of the underdog, which is the Palestinians, but is actually Hamas, which aren't really great people, but
But it's important to differentiate Hamas and Palestine.
yeah, exactly,
Like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. But I feel like that isn't being explained well, and that adds to further problems when talking about this topic. Because you'll watch this stuff and people, you hear chants like, what is it? From the river to the sea, we shall be free, or something
Palestine
like that.
will be free.
Yeah. And I don't think people know what these things sort of mean or what really is going on the ground. And that sort of adds to this, cloud of.
Yeah, and they don't look at an
Anger.
actual map and realize that from the river to the sea is all of it.
That's all
the
of it.
whole. It's
That's-
the whole thing.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that would generally be what that statement would mean.
Yeah, no, but like the people who don't if you don't actually look at a map to realize where the river and where the sea is that they're talking about, it's like
That whole area there.
it's the whole thing.
Like Israel, Jordan, Palestine, Gaza, like all that whole area there that's probably like 300 miles from
I don't
here
know.
to there. It's a significant
It's
chunk
like the
of
size.
land.
That area is like the size of New Jersey. I think.
It's yeah.
Really?
It's smaller than you would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 300 miles isn't
I
that
don't know.
big.
I don't know why I laughed
but
at
it's
that,
still
but
significant.
It's still
I'm not
significant.
saying I love New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's still big.
Okay.
I can't say I do.
Not a fan
I'm
of
gonna
Jersey.
regret saying.
all right, getting us back on track here.
Can I make one last quick point on that?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
But I do want to say, whenever I talk to people about that issue, I mean, I've talked to people that are informed and knowledgeable about it, but they're always knowledgeable about one side.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to
Yeah.
people that are extremely pro-Israel, and I'll talk
Yeah.
to people that are extremely pro-Palestine. But I don't see that much like knowledge that's like split between both sides with a general understanding of where both sides are coming from.
Exactly.
It's either people that just actually there's a third party, people just want to stay out of it and don't want to talk
Yeah.
about it, which I fully get. I'm one of those people for the most part. But I think it's important to learn both perspectives, understand both sides, because you'll never like understand what's going on
Exactly.
truthfully if you don't do that. Sorry, Carson.
No, it's good. No, it's fine. Anytime you guys, I'm trying to keep us on track. But if any point you have more thoughts, stop me because I do want to hear them. Do you think Joe Biden has been the uniting character that he pitched himself as in 2020?
He's the soul of the
not.
nation. That's what he says. Sorry, sir.
Who wants to start us off here?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I feel like there was a lot of political divide under Trump. But I feel like even more so now. I feel like not
Okay.
really now, but at the beginning of his presidency, there was an increased divide amongst the two political parties, right? And within those parties, it's always been like, oh, there's like 15% on each side who are real far on that part of the spectrum. But I feel like within the last couple of years, that 15% has grown to maybe 20-25% of people are further on that spectrum. But the thing is, like the saying is, the further you go, the closer to the other side you get. But I feel like within the last, I'd say maybe a year and a half to 2 years, people have started to come down from that and be like, maybe this isn't what we need right now. Maybe we need something else. And they've started to. I've seen a lot of people, even people I know who are, were very outspoken against Trump and very supportive of Biden, or vice versa, whatever, who have started to switch sides, and it's kind of shocking, especially for how divided a lot of people were on a lot of geopolitical topics.
Yeah, Trevor, Cade.
Well, I appreciate when it comes to Biden, like I appreciate more the respectful dialogue and like more kind rhetoric, in all honesty, because Trump's a very interesting character, very funny at times, very inappropriate at times, but Biden has a more peaceful approach to like talking to people on the other side, in my opinion. He's not just calling. I mean, there are like times like where he'll just say Republicans are being bad or stuff like that. I mean, but he's approaching it in a more respectful way, a way that can allow for more unity, but he's still not hitting like that many home runs. He's still got to catch up, like to how passing more legislation, more like bipartisan, like which he promised. He focused on more bipartisan legislation, and he's done things like that. Like the Chips and Science Act, I think was a huge home run, a big success. But for the most part, he's got to like focus on working more together in bipartisan ways, especially with the new immigration bill, which was going to pass, but now it's being stalled based on Trump's rhetoric. So, yeah.
And then, the way I see it is it depends on who we're saying got united and who we're saying got put. The far right's been pushed further away. But like, let's be honest, the far left is not happy with Biden, and we're not like, I still feel like I'm going to vote for Biden. I still feel like many people will when it comes down to it. And I feel like a lot of center right people are still able to throw their support behind Biden in terms of accepting that he's relatively okay. So I think there's a lot of us who have learned to go back to swallowing a president that we don't really like is in office. Whereas during Trump and the start of Biden, we saw a lot more people being a lot louder about not liking the president. I do think maybe possibly the best thing to unite the country will be a normal Republican president where Democrats then have to swallow it's someone they don't like, and everyone can just sit and be quiet and accept someone's the president for 4 more years.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have started to come down from it, and we're starting to like work on more things together. But I mean, like we said at the start of Biden's term, coming right off of Trump, I mean, I felt like we were more politically divided than we pretty much ever had been.
Except for the Civil War, we can't.
Yeah. Other than that,
Fair. We have to go off the Shane Gillis bit where he's like, I heard someone say this is the most divided ever, and I was like, I don't know. We fought a war.
we had a civil
Yeah, there was
war.
a literal civil war.
We fought a war over it, but your point kind of standing that it feels it felt really bad
in our lifetime at least.
Yeah.
But I liked what you said about like swallowing a pill. I think more people are starting to kind of, at least myself, I feel like I'm starting to kind of, acknowledge that I have to swallow that pill, get behind Biden, whatnot, because even though I don't necessarily agree with everything he has done and has said, I still feel like it's maybe the best option we have.
It's kind of like there's a quote that I saw from, I think it was just from some voter, just like a no-name person that was like, I didn't vote for John F. Kennedy, but he's my president, so I hope he does well.
Yeah.
And then Rush Limbaugh was talking about Obama, and he was like, I hope he fails.
Yeah.
And it's like, at the end of the day, it probably would be best if people could have that mindset of like, this guy is not the person that I picked, but this is still the country that we're all living in, so I hope he does well for people.
While he's not my ideal choice, if he ends up being president again, I'll try and support him as best I can because, that's all we really can do at the end of the day.
I feel like people are pissed with how things are going. I feel like a lot of people are tired of paying a lot of money for certain things like food and gas and and I feel like that adds to that political divide is people, a lot of people don't want Trump and a lot of people don't want Biden, but like who else is there?
But also the economy is doing very well right
now.
now.
The
Why
economy
aren't we talking about this.
The economy is going up. It is.
Yeah.
Which
we're going in the right.
It is getting better, which is a relief.
But I do want to say the concerning thing about, if we're going like talking about Trump v. Biden, and I think this is something we need to focus on, is January 6th. I know it's repetitive and talked about a lot, but the rhetoric Trump was saying about the election, claiming there were so many fraudulent votes, having countless court cases being thrown out or just dismissed based on these like terrible claims that he was provoking and stating, I think it's it really impacted our country and hurt our democracy was we used to always have that peaceful transition of power. Like if you go like George W. Bush to Obama, they were different political they were part of different parties. They had strong differences on political opinions, but still Bush tried to make sure Obama had a good term. Even when Obama to Trump, Obama tried to said he wanted Trump to do well at first. Now it's a little different, but it's important to remember how Trump reacted to losing, how he till this day does not believe he actually lost fairly, and how he still is advocating for those claims. So I think when it comes to the Biden v. Trump option, Trump's very unpredictable. The fact that he still hasn't accepted that loss is just damaging. And
Just as a clarification question, Trevor,
Yeah.
do you think that Trump actually believes that he lost, or do you think he's knowingly lying about it?
Good question. I think he actually believes he won. I think
Okay.
the amount of times he's repeated it over and over and over again. I'll watch interviews on Fox News, CNN, where I know I don't have Truth Social. I have a friend who has Truth Social. He'll send me screenshots of whatever the hell
dude.
Trump is talking about.
My favorite, to this day, and I've referenced it before, it's kind of like an ongoing bit, but my favorite Truth Social post was when he just dragged Elon through the mud.
Do we
And he
call
was like,
for-
whether it's driverless cars, that
You got to
whether
read
it's a-
truth the truth.
What are tweets now that it's X? Are they X?
I don't know, that's a good question,
Yeah,
but
what
on
do you
Truth
call
Social,
it?
he dragged Elon through the mud. He was like, whether it's, electric cars that don't drive long enough, driverless cars that crash, or rocket ships to nowhere. And it's like, this is the...
Well,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
right.
His rhetoric's unpredictable.
Very
you see,
unpredictable.
his last press secretary, I might mispronounce her name, Kayleigh McEnany.
That's right.
She spoke about how after the New Hampshire results in the primary, she spoke about how Trump has to appeal more to independents, how Nikki Haley was getting that vote. And then Trump bashed her on truth. This is someone who supported your presidency. She worked hard as your press secretary, and he just bashed her. He's got to be more stable, and his rhetoric's just so unpredictable and scary when it comes, especially with Ukraine. He changed
Yeah.
his tune about that.
Yeah.
He said on day one he'll be a dictator. He said I'll be a dictator on day one.
For a day. He
Yeah.
said he would do it for a day.
For a day is too many days.
I don't know what that is. It is too many
Yeah,
days.
it's too many.
Yeah, one
Okay.
day's too many.
Yeah, he's really unpredictable. Remember, he was going through national security advisors, it was.
yeah.
Everybody, it's
God.
He was, and he had a crazy cabinet lineup too. He had retired general after retired general, and we're fighting, an insurgency. So we have he's got lieutenant colonel, retired generals who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, experts in the field, and he's like, nope, gone. And I'm like,
Well, it's weird.
Yeah.
He had
yeah.
Rex Tillerson as the Secretary of State. He said, "Wow, Rex Tillerson, one of the smartest guys I know, very intelligent." And then
Yeah.
there's I read Nikki Haley's book, and there's you can tell there's infighting between the cabinet. And then after he fires him, he's like, "Rex Tillerson, what an idiot! What a what a dumbass!" It's you can't be talking like that.
I'd
Can't be
actually
doing it.
Love to backtrack to talking about the faith in our elections and whether or not we can afford Trump for that reason. The reason I think it's actually so important to talk about this as Trump versus Biden and throw out third-party candidates this year, not even thinking about them. Has anyone even considered how dangerous it is trying to explain to the American public? Let's say Bobby Kennedy Jr. wins 5 swing states and nobody reaches 270. How do we explain to these people that the House of Representatives decides the president?
Oh wow, when was the last time that happened? Was it 1800s?
Was that Alexander Hamilton?
That I don't know.
I think that's it's old stuff.
I know John Quincy Adams became president due to the House. No one
Yeah,
knew,
Yeah, it's
but
been a
there's-
long time.
And
Yeah.
we'll circle back to the sort of the final evaluation of Trump v. Biden in a second. I have one more question for you guys. Do any of you think that Joe Biden should have debated any other of the Democratic candidates going into the election?
I honestly think not. I don't think any of them hold high. I mean, I'd have to look at the polls. I look at Real Clear Politics, which is just a sum of all these different polls, whether it's Emerson or Quincy. But I really don't think similar to how Trump didn't debate anyone. If you debate, it shows that you have competition. I think the smart thing was to not debate. Plus, you can tell Biden's. If you watch him at press conferences answering questions, he is out of it.
I mean,
It only hurt him, I think. If you had Marianne Williamson or RFK. Or I think
Marianne
Dean
Williamson
Phillips is
doesn't
the other guy
debate
running.
well either.
Marianne Williamson's out.
He doesn't
22.
debate well.
Honestly, if he did debate, it would probably just be against
The
him.
drugs they would have to shoot him up with to
Oh,
get
I
him to
know.
walk
It'd
out
be
on the
crazy.
stage
Yeah.
would be crazy.
It'd be
If I'm
crazy.
advising him, I say don't debate. If I'm talking about for our democracy, we should always debate
Yeah.
under all
Actually, I'd agree.
circumstances.
Again,
It would-
so that's.
Yeah,
That would have
that's
been a
fair.
nightmare to watch.
But
I mean, I've already said it. I'm like having a watch party of the first debate.
Oh,
If
okay.
they debate,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a watch party.
Oh,
It's gonna be.
dude, count me in.
I mean, it's gonna be on a level. That's for me. That is like the greatest sporting event of all. It's like the Olympics.
It is like
For-
That's our
fun.
Super
Like,
Bowl.
that's our Super
You
Bowl.
remember that first debate with Chris Wallace where they're literally just yelling over each other the
Yeah.
whole
Oh.
hour
It's like
and
when
a half.
it's like when Trump and what's her face Hillary Clinton would debate. Like that was hilarious. They're
Okay.
like,
that felt more
was
simple,
terrible.
though. You know, the
Yeah, that
first
felt-
2020 debate and all.
But I
those
think
things.
Hillary lost those debates because she didn't take him seriously and let him. She let
That's-
him go
That's the
off.
interesting thing. When I first watched those debates, I thought Hillary beat him. I thought
She laughed at
She
him.
did
She
great in
just
it.
let
But
him
then
go
you
off.
rewatch them and you notice Trump's handle, like he'll make attacks at appropriate moments. I disagree with
Yeah.
his language, like he called her a nasty woman. I think you should never call some like, in my opinion.
That
But
wasn't his worst statement.
that was
Oh, that
That was
he's
great.
called
well, actually,
her
during
a
those debates,
worse.
that might be his worst statement. And he said
Were they
worse
that
stuff.
severe?
obviously,
Yeah.
like,
All right, here we go.
Countries.
let's take a final look at this. So, Trump versus Biden, re-elect, yes or no? After all of this we've discussed,
Ooh. Okay. Oh. Why
I'm not.
start with Alex?
I'm not saying like who would you vote for. I'm saying like would you like based on our because Cade said like you separated into what the real sort of options are and then what is sort of best for our democracy.
Best for democracy, I say you have to go with Biden based on the fact that Trump has not accepted the election results.
Okay.
And he's had a scary precedent. The peaceful transition of power is important.
Mhm.
That's something that allows our democracy to thrive. You've always seen, like with when Reagan went in the George H.W. Bush, when it like lost his reelection campaign to Clinton, they always supported the next president. That's important. They always want the president to do well. They won't support the policies, but they speak in those generalities, and I think that's important. The fact Trump did not do that, he did a disgraceful job at the transition of power, rushed it, and did not accept the election results is scary. If he loses in 2024, will he even accept the results, do you think? Like, is it just fraudulent again? So
That's a
for
good
those
question.
reasons, I got to support, I would have to support Biden.
Okay.
But I'd love a third-party candidate, if someone like if you got Amy Klobuchar, Gretchen
I-
Whitmer. So,
I don't
Hater?
like her.
ah,
I think she's just annoying.
did you work for her administration? I know people that worked for her hated her.
No, I did not.
Anyone else? Any final thoughts? We're wrapping this one
Yeah,
up.
I'm just gonna say I'm gonna have to probably go with Biden.
Okay.
I don't
Same
think
reasons as you.
I don't think
So
I
much
would,
enthusiasm.
yeah. Can't you tell that we're all excited about the future of our country?
I don't I think a big thing for me is I will not probably want Biden to be reelected. And I think a big thing for me is his current mental state. I feel like that's a major factor. Like I said earlier, especially when you're taking into account that he is the leader of the most powerful country in the world. And yeah, there's many other reasons, but for time's sake, I'd say my biggest reason is his mental capacity.
Okay. We ready to move on?
Yeah, I mean, you know where I stand.
Yeah, I know. We
said
know where
I'd vote
Cade's a
Biden,
communist.
but-
That's where he stands.
I mean, maybe.
Cade's a
Depends on the
self-described
commie
communist
boy.
on this show. All right. Well, maybe then staying on the topic of Joe Biden, but under a different lens. Now we'll talk about the age limits and term limits. I guess since someone brought it up earlier, we can start about this because I don't really fully got into it. Should there be age limits for the presidency?
Yes.
Yeah, scratch,
Okay.
scratch Trump,
I
scratch
actually disagree with
Biden.
that.
Neither of them.
Okay, Trevor
should be
disagrees.
allowed.
Well, I like what Nikki Haley proposed, which is when you turn 75, there should be like a mental health test or something of that sort.
Yeah.
To know
Okay.
how much you are, like how well you are.
Yeah.
And what's the
mental-
criteria for that test?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like some experts would have to create it, but I think just to make sure you're aware of what's going on around you, you have a good memory, like because you hear slip-ups with Biden all the time. Trump recently got Nikki Haley and Pelosi mixed up.
Hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
Funny.
concerning, you
Hilarious.
know. So I think
Nancy
I don't think you should do an
Pelosi.
age
I mean,
limit, but you should
yeah.
have a test to make sure like they're in the right mental space to be
Yeah.
president.
To do it,
Form
like to
cognitive
have
sentences.
little mix-ups and like mistakes every once in a while. You know, that's human nature. But
If you catch yourself if you're on the mic
if every
every
time
day,
Yeah.
I see something about Biden, it's like who did he mix up this time? Who was he shaking hands? Was he shaking hands with the heir this time? If that's what I see about him every time, that's concerning.
He was shaking hands with ghosts.
I'm
remember
politely the only reason we don't hear that about Trump is because he's doing far worse things than just getting a little confused.
Yeah.
If he's confused too, he's just also trying to
Just more
destroy
confident
democracy.
with his confusion.
Yeah.
He is.
When you yell that you're confused, it sounds like you're not
He's
confused.
the epitome. If you pretend you belong somewhere, they'll let you be.
They're both confused, just in different ways.
Okay, and okay, so
That's such a good way to put it.
so Trevor. Okay, so Trevor's saying no age limits but a test. Any objections to, just
I'm
thoughts on all
specifically
of it?
objected to testing.
Okay.
So I don't think you can place a test on one candidate based on age and not the younger Now, I don't think you
That's
can
a good
treat two
point.
different
That's a good point.
candidates
That is a good
differently.
thought.
And then my other point I want to make that makes this all really difficult is I don't know if anyone's familiar, but the Supreme Court already ruled you can't by law through just passing a law place different requirements on the presidency that are not listed in the Constitution. They've already ruled that the age limits in the Constitution and the birthright citizenship are it was a long time ago, so we can challenge that by passing a law placing restrictions. But you can't place more restrictions on the presidency with current precedent without passing a constitutional amendment.
So we would need an amendment to make that happen. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder than
So it's even a longer
you
process
could put
now.
a law in place that could be challenged by the courts.
Yes,
the courts
you-
can decide. So you could still.
it
do
would be a
law.
Supreme Court challenge or an amendment, but
So what if we gave all of the candidates the same test?
that's still violating the current precedent.
But if there was an amendment, because you have a good point. Like, you are against the testing because you can't treat one candidate different than another based strictly on age.
yeah, then I think we need the age requirement to be shrunk to 18 if we're putting mental tests, competency tests. I think we need to remove the age requirement and make the competency test or whatever it is the only test that we put them through. But is the test a requirement, or is the requirement you take the test and we let the American public know? Because I'm also
That's interesting
I'm
too.
firm on the position that a country of idiots has the right to elect an idiot.
Fair
What
enough.
country are you referring
Yeah.
to?
Fair enough. Yeah. What country
Unfortunately.
is that?
Us.
Okay. Now, what kind of ramifications? My question is, like, what kind of effects would this actually have? Because my thought is, you can't. Let's now look at Congress. Let's now look at Congress instead of the presidency. We have the oldest Congress in the history of the country. What is the average age? Like, it's 65 or something. I think is like
higher.
young.
that sounds young, right? Can we Google that real quick? What is the average age of Congress? Because I just want to know. Because my thought is, if you put up some kind of law that says that you cannot be over a certain age, then it's like, isn't half of Congress kind of gone? Like, you'd have to implement
fine.
it going into the
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. We can kick him out.
58.
58. Okay, well, still, I mean,
Wow.
Really young, actually.
Wow.
That's not as bad as I thought it would
It's
be.
not as bad. It's still old though. You know?
Yeah.
I think for Congress, I think, age limit, maybe not, but I think maybe term limit.
okay.
Fully.
And it has a better turnover. So you have more fresh faces, policies, and ideas being brought into Congress. I mean, look at the social media stuff. Like, we have guys that are 75 years old interviewing social media CEOs.
It's my favorite thing.
It's
And
very,
they-
ever been. I mean,
it's very entertaining,
when
but
you
like
look
when
at
you
it.
really watch it and you really think about it, it's like holy shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
bad.
insanity.
Yeah.
it's bad.
It's bad. And I think that, there's a presidency turnover every 4, maybe 8 years if they're lucky. And, I feel like that should be and new presidency brings, new ideas, new policies, whatever. But then those policies all have to be supported by Congress. So if we add those term limits, then, that could be either increase in debate or increase in support of certain policies. So I think if you keep it fresh, it could benefit. It could, could shoot down some policies, but I think it would be more beneficial to the country. And if, there's term limits, you might be able to see some younger people, come into these positions of power and sort of appeal to younger Americans. Because I mean, kids our age, we look at these people and they have like, in reality, like some senators who are 75, I don't think they really have the same things in mind that like 20 to 30-year-olds do in this country.
No,
They
no.
want us to
And
retire at 70.
and I don't know
live
about
in like completely different
Completely
worlds from
different
them,
worlds. And it's
basically.
also like you're in Congress for however long.
25
years. And the other thing is like the money. Like you're making crazy money for just sitting in Congress for 25 years and having really no connection with your constituents or with the younger generation of Americans.
I'm sure some of them do, but there also are a lot of them that just
don't.
Probably can't.
I've been saying since before I knew you, 4 terms in the House, 2 terms in the Senate.
How long? Now this is bad that I don't know this, but a term in the
2 years per term, so 8 years in the House, 12 years in the Senate. That's your total. So 20 years in Congress is your total limit.
Yeah, I mean that would be
That's
probably
fair.
yeah.
You're
I
being
think that's
switched around and stuff like that.
I could say that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I would support that because you see like senators like Chuck Grassley from Iowa. He's right now, I think he's like 90 years old. He still has like 4 or 5 more years to serve. He's already been serving 30.
4 or 5 more years.
Exactly.
4 or 5 years, he's gonna be
Feinstein,
dead.
She died in office sadly last year. She was
did.
elected in 1992. She ran for re-election. I think it was in 2016.
Yeah, and I didn't really respect her
2018.
staying in Congress because it's not like she was in a state where she was defending from a Republican by not stepping down. She was in a state where it was California. It was just going to be another Democrat.
Well, she's just holding on to power. Like you see these politicians that you just need to.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but you may have to move your coffee there. The studio's rebelling against us.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They're trying to the studio's trying to kick us out. I don't know there's a draft coming through this window. I'm sorry, folks, for who are watching and listening. We're gonna get right back on track. I'm just trying to fix this. I don't want to be in anybody's way. Okay,
think
well, enough of this.
But like,
Continue.
You have these faces that have been in Congress way too long. Like Joe Biden, he was in the Senate. People forget 36 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I think it's important to get those fresh faces, new perspectives. I'm okay if you have older members because like an older audience older constituents need to be represented. But the fact that you have these senators serving like 40 years is just too much.
Yeah.
And
I think another big thing for that is when you get these people who are, serving for super, super long in the Senate, that also affects people who are in like special committees, like, Intelligence Committee, like Armed Services Committee. Like you have guys who are like, you could have somebody on the Intelligence Committee who, was on the Intelligence Committee during the Cold War. Like,
You're not wrong.
Like,
Wait a minute, that's crazy.
like mathematically speaking, it's possible. And
I
the way
guarantee it's happened.
it's probably like the Cold War ended in what? Technically like 1990. So like if you were on the
In like whenever the Soviet Union fell, I guess.
Chuck Grassley has been there since the Cold War.
oh yeah, 100%. Which is
full
insane.
of senators that have been.
Which
That's
is
so crazy.
And you look at that and the way that the world has changed, and I like speaking from like the intelligence community standpoint on this, like the way that operates is completely different now than how it was in the Cold War. Like we were focused on a number of different things back then that we're not now. So like you have these people who are in that same
I'm amazed
mindset
that's not
that
what
we have
people
to
put.
Hold on, Cade. Let Pat finish. Sorry.
that we have to do these things the way that we did in the 80s or like early 90s. When it's not even the same actors, even like if it comes to like, Foreign Affairs Committee, stuff like that. And I feel like that's why you see sort of, if you do like international outreach, a lot of the stuff is super dated. Like why are we doing the same stuff that we did in Somalia in the 90s in 2020? Because we have these people who are making these decisions who were probably on that committee in the 90s while we were supplying humanitarian aid to Somalia. And then it's, again, to my previous point, if we keep that, fresh turnover of faces and ideas, maybe we can get some, some things to change, especially if it's a younger generation of people coming in.
Well, also, they're not qualified to handle the problems that exist anyway. How many times did they say something wrong about social media during the hearing?
They called it Tic Tac. They were asking the CEO of
Oh, yeah,
TikTok.
TikTok.
He was like, I'm Singaporean, and they were like, have you been involved with the CCP? And he was like, Senator,
are
I'm from
you-
Singapore.
Did he know
Are
where
you
Singapore
a-
was?
That
Shine-
was Tom Cotton from Arkansas. That
Yeah.
was just a terrible.
He wasn't
Yeah.
that old. He was just dumb.
Are you a
yeah.
Chinese citizen?
But
Yeah.
No,
it
I'm from
comes off as
Singapore.
offensive. You ask him
It's
like 10
two different
times
countries.
in a row. You can disagree with the platform, but you don't make comments like that, in my opinion.
All right. Final thoughts, because I figured this one would be a little shorter, and it kind of was because we all immediately said that there should be. I figured this was going to
Yeah,
go.
there's something wrong
And
with it.
any final thoughts on this topic before we jump to aid to Israel, Ukraine, Palestine, all places?
I think
Any final thoughts?
I think that it wouldn't have even come to this if I'm fine with old members of Congress. The problem is it's not even representative of our whole population. Like if some of them are old, yeah, I guess they can talk about their Medicare or whatever. I always call Bernie Sanders an old man who likes his Medicare. Yeah, that's what he is. They can talk about their stuff. They Social Security. They have stuff that's important to their livelihood too. The problem is that they've just entirely abandoned everyone else's.
I agree. And just like one more quick point on that is like they'll talk about, younger people with, student loans and the housing market and stuff like that. Like stuff like the price of stuff is so much different than when they were in our shoes, especially the housing market. Like they're like, oh, like get a job, save up. Dude, like your house you bought for probably like
6 acorns. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you spent on the
literally,
house.
Like the house
6 cards. That sounds expensive from the
yeah,
90s.
in this
Yeah.
economy, this is crazy. 6 acorns, especially in Pittsburgh. There's no
This
trees.
just sounds
around
like
here, man.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. How many
that's what
bells is that
Yeah.
gonna be?
Like they bought their house for like example like $50,000 in 1984.
and it's
Yeah.
now worth.
Now that's like a $250,000 house.
Mhm.
What 25-year-old
Yeah.
has $200,000 to $300,000?
Not even comparable.
No,
No.
even student loans. Like
Yeah.
I'll hear like older people I know, not even people in Congress. They're like, oh, like your student loans and stuff like that. You probably had a fraction of what my student loans are, and then job market and all that stuff is completely different. Minimum wage and taxes and stuff, it's completely different. I feel like that older generation who are the people making the decisions are so out of touch with younger people. It's also they have like millions of dollars in the bank. None of us.
pensions.
They have pensions.
They have, they have
But
all
they're-
sorts of stuff.
It's just they have like what's insider knowledge on what to invest in. If you
Exactly.
look at, like, Pelosi's
my God,
investments
yeah,
in the
that's-
past.
Dude, her
like-
husband has like never lost in the stock market.
No.
It's
Wonder
amazing.
why.
Like
Huh.
he
He's
is
just
a
that
wizard.
smart,
You
know?
can buy index funds for the Democrats and the Republicans' investments. I think the Democratic index fund 1 year was up like 20%.
Yeah, it's insane.
You can just buy someone because it tracks their
Yeah,
investments
they
are
track
public.
all of it.
Someone made an index fund that automatically invests the way the Democrats are investing. It's great.
That's
The
hilarious.
Democrats are better investors than the Republicans currently.
All right, let's.
Oh, I do got one last thing though.
Of course.
A majority of Americans support term limits. I think almost all of us support term limits. I
Yeah.
think it's something that needs to be put in the future. It's just the people that would put that in place are the politicians who benefit from no term limits. So that's the only
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky
We're
part.
kind of stuck.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to talking about aid going to Israel, Palestine, and Ukraine. Are we doing too much, too little, just the right amount? Cade?
That money's not real. I don't. I don't. There's.
Here's a question: should we be sending them Bitcoin or maybe Dogecoin?
That's. I always think it's funny that we talk about our military budget like we're going to run out. I don't think we should be giving money to Israel for military purposes. I think both the citizens of Israel and the citizens of Palestine are in a really rough position and deserve aid. But I think we should be giving them like, here's food, here's blankets,
Clean
here's
water.
yeah, here's the things that are going to help your citizens. I don't think we should be supplying them with weapons. Ukraine, I think, is critical to our national security, and I'm in full support of everything we've done, and we should do more.
Okay, Pat.
Speaking for Ukraine first, I think it's beneficial that we supply funds and weaponry and munitions to Ukraine for a number of reasons. It's strategically it's a good idea. Like Ukraine's not a NATO ally. They're not a part of that. But that being said, technically speaking, we are still allies with Ukraine. Like Ukraine did help with us in Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff like that. Very like minuscule level help, but they still did. And they are a democratic country in that part of the world.
Sort of. They canceled the elections this year. That's a rough one for the fighting for democracy thing.
Yeah.
That's rough.
But it's different circumstances.
That's tough in a war zone.
I
That's
agree.
like you never change. That's like the saying, you never change a general in a war, and you never change a captain during your journey at sea. But I've seen people complain like, oh, we're sending too much or we're sending anything at all. But if we didn't send anything, no one else was going to. Like maybe Poland and France, maybe, but they do not have the funding nor the equipment or the ability to support the way that we do. And it's also if we didn't do it, they were going to fall real quick, right? And that's a bad thing. Like we did this with Hitler in the 40s. It's like let him take it, let him take it,
Right?
Let him take it. Next thing you know, he's got Poland, and everyone's like, oh, shit, when did this happen? It happened when you started letting him grab up all the Baltic states.
Right.
So a lot of people's fear in, foreign affairs circles is that if we didn't support and we let Putin take it, he was just going to keep taking and taking and taking. And that's what he said. He's like, I'm going to take it. And the other thing is, like, we're sending money. It's money, and it's any like vehicles or tanks or anything that we're sending are stock, like old stock. Right, we're getting rid of it because those contract bids are coming to an end. So all these new defense companies are, selling newer stuff to the government. And it's also we haven't lost any American lives in this conflict. So like me personally, I would rather send money and guns and weapons than send American bodies and have them killed. And there's a vast strategic importance to that.
Yeah. Alex, Trevor.
I think it's important we continue sending humanitarian aid. We could keep sending military aid. I think I was reading a report from like October of 2023. It said we currently sent $75 billion at that point in a mixture of humanitarian and military aid. And I think it sets a good precedent. We're supporting a democratic ally against a ruthless invasion that's unprecedented and not respectable in any form. It's outrageous what's going on out there. So I think by continuously giving aid, we're setting a good precedent. We're encouraging other countries to like also continuously send aid. The EU has continuously sent aid, not as much as America, but we're also like the largest economy in the world. So it's important that we send the most money because we are the largest economy. So it's good that we continue. I can hear the train from here.
Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. We were at a train.
Dude, you didn't move the train for the podcast? Come on.
No, I did. I am not there yet.
He likes trains.
Dude, I like trains. Biden likes trains. Okay. So, no, but we got to set a good precedent. And I think it's important that we continuously support Ukraine in this war. We cannot just allow this to happen. Because first it's Ukraine, then you have different countries in NATO that could be attacked. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, now Finland. You got to make sure we support our democratic allies. And it's important just to make sure NATO is intact. It's something that concerns me about Trump. He's talked about the idea of leaving NATO.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
It's weird with him though, because if you go see NATO summits in the past he would call out other nations for not reaching the 2% GDP,
which is a good thing. I will say, it's a good thing, and I've seen a lot of people are very mad about that, and a lot of countries have since stepped up and given that because U.S. supplies, what is it, like 25% of NATO's budget?
I think so. Well, I know
That's not surprising.
It's something insane.
Not
Like,
surprising.
We were like the founding members of NATO. Like NATO's not a thing without the United States. And he was like, you guys need to step it up because we're sick of footing the bill for like an extra couple $1 billion when freaking France is over here just kind of skating by.
Eating chocolate croissants.
Yeah.
Step up
Exactly.
with the commitment.
Germany's doing 1% of their nominal GDP. Canada's doing 1.3%. And Trump's calling out these countries, saying you got to put more towards military funding. It's essential because if something like this were to happen, we need that military backup. If there's one of those countries attacked, everyone has to be in unison about it. Everyone has to support it. And it's interesting. Now he's like seemingly more against NATO. He's changed his like dialogue on that.
Which is
and it's
interesting.
concerning because I fully support NATO. I think it's a very important thing. We have a lot of Western countries that are like, we're all working together to prevent a wider conflict. And by having this unison in all these countries, it prevents further invasions by Russia. If NATO did not exist, like Finland might be attacked, or would be more likely to be attacked, and might end up getting attacked, sadly. But this contract allows for more unison, and that's important. And I think we need, like, that's another thing that scares me. If Trump becomes president, we might leave NATO.
Yeah, that's
Alex.
scary to think about.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we put a stop to the thirst trapping being done by the Ukrainian military on TikTok? I
Wait,
mean, they
what?
got these like,
What?
You guys not seen this? Like,
Yeah, I've
they got
seen it.
these like hot girls in like military uniforms,
Psychological operations.
like thirst trapping on TikTok. Like, there will be a Ukrainian girl in the uniform, and she's very beautiful, and then
I
she's
fully support
out
that.
here. You know what I mean?
I have no problems.
No
with
one's
that.
seen this. I
No.
thought I was
No.
going.
No.
I know
want
what you're
to.
talking about.
Like, what?
I thought I was going crazy. I was
No.
like, this is a new level of psyop right here.
Yeah, the
Where,
psyops
That's
are
where our
crazy.
aid is going, guys.
you know. Okay, I want to go back to this. So Cade
Beautiful
said,
Slavic women.
But you just referenced like a TikTok thing. You mentioned it, and then we're not going to talk about it.
No.
We're just gonna jump.
What, are you joking about that, or
"No,
serious?
I'm dead serious. That's see, I got to look it up. We'll talk about it next time, Trevor." You know?
brought it up and like, let's go back to the average
Let's go
conversation.
back to the actual discussion here. We've been talking about Ukraine, aid to Ukraine. Cade brought up earlier. He thinks that we should send humanitarian aid to Israel and to Palestine, but not military equipment and support. Thoughts on that?
I think that we should be supporting militarily Israel.
Okay.
Israel is a strategic point in that region of the world for the United States. And Israel is also one of our best allies in the world. And we are still sending humanitarian aid to the people of Palestine. But, you know, Israel still needs a little bit of, we're not sending crazy amounts of military support. We're sending money and, you know, but we're not really sending tanks and stuff like we are to Ukraine.
Florida sent body armor. I didn't even know they could do that.
Yeah,
DeSantis was like, take some body
Wait,
armor.
Florida sent.
DeSantis sent
It's-
Israel like a care package of like
Yeah, they
body
sent
armor
reserves
and-
from the guard or something down in Florida.
I actually really don't like that because I don't think states should be able to. I understand that may have been consistent with the United States currently held position, but could that possibly become a risk where, okay, say it's Russia and Ukraine, where not even all of the right has gotten on board with supporting Ukraine. Some even suggest Putin's not that bad. Do we run into a dangerous area with precedent by letting states?
I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation to open
yeah,
up.
With DeSantis, I do support. He actually had. DeSantis is a very interesting figure, bad in many ways. But he sent planes actually to get out Floridians out of Israel during this conflict, which
Yeah.
I do actually
That just
support.
scares me.
I know, but it's important to get those people out of the war zone. You know.
Yeah.
That to me is so just thinking about the plane landing and you're from like Iowa and you're like, can I get on? It's like, it's only for Florida
Nope.
residents. You're not.
Sorry.
If you have a Florida area
Only for
code,
Florida. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like,
though.
can
Yeah.
you
That would be
imagine
wild.
if you're from like Delaware and you're in Israel and the Florida plane lands, they don't let you get on.
Oh,
They just
yeah.
send it. There's like 2 people that get on. It's like, wait, there's extra seats. Doesn't matter.
No, you're not from Florida. Sorry.
Yeah.
if you can't do the Florida Gators chomp, you cannot get on the plane. Okay?
Well, I think that's hilarious.
Go Gators.
What would our It's been a war zone for forever. Like, it's never been peaceful in Israel.
That's the Middle
Yeah.
East in
No,
general.
it's never
Why
been.
am I going as an American to, like, I get there's religious reasons and all that. Stop it. It's not a tourist area. It's
Why are you
war
going?
zone.
I gotta disagree
It's
with
been a
that.
war
I will
zone
say,
my whole
yeah.
life.
It's a very
Israel's not a war zone. Like the West Bank and Gaza, not even the West Bank, more Gaza has been a war zone.
Yeah.
Israel's a beautiful country. I know many people who have gone to Israel. Stunning, stunning country. But I do like I said earlier, I do think that we should be supporting Israel militarily. I mean, they were attacked, and they, according to international law, have the right to self-defense. this is a very sticky conflict.
Yeah, that's a question I have. Is when we talk about protection, when we talk about retaliation, when we talk about an appropriate, measured response.
Yes.
There is. You could make an argument that we've gone past that by now. With the bombings in Gaza.
It's tough because Hamas is, as an organization, is a very bad organization. They are a designated terrorist organization, and in their fatwa, they made statements to the destruction of Israel,
the state of Israel,
right?
Yeah.
I think, and the Jewish people,
and the Jewish people as a general, right?
I guess the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you cannot agree that is like not a good thing, then I feel like there's some other conversation that has to be had. Like they want to kill a lot of people, which is not good no matter what. Like a lot of people, they want people to die.
We're making a lot of declarations on the show today. Pat Sullivan says terrorism not good either.
Not good either.
Not good.
This is where we're at.
Terrorism
right?
bad.
Dude, I gotta say, in the past, you never made that statement. Why did it take you?
Yeah, right.
20 years to say
Sorry, man.
terrorism's bad? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this is like we were talking about earlier, like the lack of knowledge of the political and military conflict background of this region really adds to this sticky situation. I know there's a whole nother topic of conversation that could be had with social media doesn't help with this and stuff like that, but
a lot of people that are supporting Israel are not helping by talking in this country, and a lot of people that support Palestine are not helping either.
No.
Not helping.
This is a very bad conflict politically. It's not great because a lot of people are getting roped into this that aren't deserving of it. Like it's especially the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
Like the Palestinian people are not the ones that attacked Israel.
You have to separate.
Hamas and Palestine.
But at the same time, do we have to acknowledge the fact that there was a poll that said 80% of Palestinian people supported the attack on October 7th?
And it's also
that's, and I'm not saying again, I don't want to rope in the Palestinian people either. But when you see a poll like that, you have to ask some questions.
I'd love to interject on that poll because it reminds me. Let's talk about Revolutionary War propaganda in America for a second. America released, there was the Boston Massacre. The images of the Boston Massacre, like the posters and stuff that was American propaganda. None of it was not as horrendous as America wanted to make it look, but they did it to garner support for the war. None of us are consuming Palestinian media about what that attack looked like.
That is a good point.
And the Palestinian people have historically been oppressed by Israel. I don't think we're going to be in heavy disagreement of that. So you have to look at it from, are they seeing it?
Well, I can't say that because I don't know, so I can't say.
They have been generally, at least everything I've read has said that Israel's not been always the friendliest to Palestinians.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, how internally they might see that the same way we saw the Revolutionary War. Because who says that in Palestine, because Gaza is generally controlled by Hamas.
I was gonna say like the ruling government of Palestine. Like if you see of Gaza, sorry.
Yes.
If you see like the health ministry of Gaza released death reports. The health ministry of Gaza is run by Hamas. Yeah. Like any governmental function that goes on in Gaza is run by Hamas, which in turn is run by Iran. So anything that goes on there has to get the go-ahead from Iran first because Hamas is a proxy group of Iran. So that's why a lot of this has become so politicized because people will see these numbers and it's like, oh, health ministry of Gaza, defense ministry of Gaza, that's Hamas. And that's where it gets really sticky. And that's why this has been so politicized because how accurate are a lot of these numbers? We
don't know.
We don't know.
We have no idea.
And it's Israel is very good at the military side of this. Israel's very good at this. They're very good. They're some of the best in the world when it comes to urban fighting. That's what they've done. They are essentially built around self-defense. They've been attacked by every country in that region multitude of times, and they've beaten them off every single time. And they're so good at urban fighting like that. Israel has done a lot to try to which in turn kind of hurts them. But before they do anything, they kind of send it out to the people of Gaza, and they're like, we're coming in, get out if you can. But you're televising that. Hamas is going to see that, and that's when the human shields start happening, and then you see civilian casualties, and then it's like,
But they've also have they? And again, I wish I could say like pull up an article or pull up a report. I've also seen incidents that they've told people to evacuate, and they bombed the areas they've told them to evacuate to.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
where
I've
can
seen
they
that
evacuate? Like nation-wise, they're stuck where they are. Nobody wants them.
Mm-hmm.
It's giving me like George Bush attacking Middle Eastern countries and attacking the whole country as the war on terror. Like Israel's not targeting their attacks specifically. They more went with we're going to get this done as quickly as possible rather than as carefully as possible.
Okay. Final question that I have, and then everyone can give me final thoughts that you guys have. But does anyone think that aid from the United States should be placed under the stipulation that a path to peace has to be pursued to some extent in order to get aid?
Now, that's an interesting question because I think a path. If you go back to like when Israel first left, like when all Israeli citizens were forced out of Gaza, this was like I think 2003, 2004.
I think it was 2004.
There were like thousands of people there, and they were like brutally taken out from their homes from the IDF. Most people did not go peacefully, but at the end of the day, they all left, and the territory was given to Palestinians, and they elected Hamas in power at the time. Now you have like 480,000 Israelis living in the West Bank in settlements that are not supported by the UN. I mean, do we force them out of there? How do you have a solution there? Because then if you start building a map where you have those settlements as like Israeli land, it gets so complicated.
The borders have been kind of squirrely. A little.
Middle Eastern politics, ladies and gentlemen.
The borders are already split. There's two separate Palestinian areas, one run by Hamas, one run by, I forget what the other Palestine government structure
The PLO.
is. Yeah. That the PLO. They're split down the middle by Israel. Like, there's already stupid borders.
I do want to say, before we started the podcast, Carson had a brilliant idea to solve the whole Middle Eastern crisis.
Hey,
Yeah, so what was it again?
Was it Taylor
Whoa.
Swift?
Yes, it might have been. I do think this. I do think Taylor Swift could go do a tour in the Gaza Strip, and the conflict would be over, because everyone would make $1 billion, and it would.
She'd really have to wrap up though. Like, she can't be wearing a lot of those outfits in the middle.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fly very far.
Okay. Any final thoughts on the United States sending aid to various places around the world before we jump on to artificial intelligence?
I'm a fan of it personally. Like I said earlier, big thing is that no American lives have been lost.
Mm-hmm.
We're not putting boots on the ground. It's it's money, it's equipment, and a big thing for Ukraine, which I wanted to mention earlier, but I forgot about, is Ukraine is interesting in one specific way, is that this is the first like conventional war we have seen in a while. Like lately, it's been like insurgencies, stuff like that. But
cyber attacks.
Yeah, we haven't seen two ground-based forces in trench warfare in how many years? So I feel like this is it's I've seen in a lot of circles people have called it a proving ground for newer military technologies. So I feel like it's another reason that a lot of countries are providing aid, is because like they want to see how certain things hold up. Like we've seen, like,
oh, that's fucked up. We're just like send them all.
We're just testing.
We're just testing
Yeah,
equipment.
I mean,
Yeah.
not wrong. I mean, that's
it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, but it's kind of.
And it's also, another big thing is like, Russia's been, very outspoken against, we're a military powerhouse, yada, yada, yada. They're bogged down. So, like, we're really getting to test the Russian military, which hasn't really been tested since Afghanistan in the 70s under the Soviet Union. So I feel like this is a very interesting conflict that has many sides to it. And I feel like there is a great benefit to providing aid to Ukraine.
How will, I don't know the answer to this, but like when Russia invaded Crimea in 2014, was like a huge military operation? Like I know it's not
like
to the
2
same
weeks.
scale of what's going on now.
It wasn't.
like-
It wasn't very big.
I
No.
thought they like just handed it to them. Essentially.
No, there
Well, they
was
did not do that.
there was a Crimean resistance. Like the Crimean separatist groups and militant groups in the region did put up a fight, but they didn't have that outside NATO support. So I don't know the exact time frame, but didn't take them very long. And I think that's what Putin thought was going to happen in Ukraine, is he was going to have another Crimea, and he was just going to cruise through that place.
Dude,
Yeah.
Zelensky's done a great job bringing like support for the war. I mean, I know polls like in Ukraine have shown that support's sort of draining now.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think he's done a great job as a world leader. And
Yeah.
He's really, I think he's proven himself. I think he has a lot of skeletons in his closet, but the way that this war has been fought, I mean, the Ukrainians, they're tough. Like
They're a tough people.
Yeah.
They are.
They're some tough bastards, and it's impressive, and it's honorable to see how they are fighting and how hard they are fighting to protect their homeland.
And I think a big plus side to this, if 75 billion's still currently the accurate number, Ukraine has held off Russia with a fraction of the training and about less than 10% of our military budget, and it just goes to show what our 800 and some billion dollars a year military could do. I mean, if Ukraine can hold off Russia, would we just walk through Russia in a day? Like,
I think
I don't know if I want to find out.
Russia's a
Yeah.
very tough country to invade, but I mean, the Ukrainian military has proven itself many times. I mean, they were trained by U.S. Green Berets and British and French special forces, and like, don't get it wrong, like us and especially the Brits, probably the Poles too, have people on the ground in Ukraine. Like we definitely like CIA is definitely there. There are definitely JSOC elements on the ground. Like
The Mossad's probably there.
Mossad's
too.
probably there. I mean, Ukrainian special forces are phenomenal. Like there are Ukrainian special forces in Africa right now taking down Wagner groups that are bringing in like gold and oil.
R.I.P. Yevgeny Prigozhin. R.I.P.
But
Blown out of the sky.
the Ukrainian military is very highly trained.
Yeah.
I mean, we were there even like months before this conflict was starting because everyone saw it coming. So we had people there. We were training up. Like they are a very efficient fighting force, which is surprising because normally a lot of those Baltic state countries don't really have an effective fighting force as a military. But
Yeah.
Ukraine is a grave exception for that.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I think positive takeaway is it would be nice to see us all care about our country enough in the near future that if something were to happen, we care as much as Ukraine's people have cared.
We need some.
Yeah.
We need to bring back patriotism. 2024.
I think it's rumored Canada's right now planning an invasion, which I'm a little scared of.
Canada?
Yeah. They're going to go into Washington State.
Robert F.
Idaho.
Kennedy goes, they got WMDs up there. We
Yeah.
saw them. We got to go get them. Trudeau's got nukes.
Just invade Canada to bring back patriotism.
We're gonna do round 2 of the War of
I will
1812.
I will vote for whoever
Okay.
runs on the platform that we invade Canada.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on to artificial intelligence. The government is now trying to regulate artificial intelligence a little bit. Is this a good thing, bad thing? Anyone's thoughts to start out here?
Bad.
Why? Okay,
Because
it says bad. Why?
It's not bad to regulate it. It's bad because they're the wrong people to regulate it. We don't have the right government in place to be regulating technology. They're dumb.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a bunch of them don't understand like really what AI is and how it works. So I agree with that.
They literally they've never written an essay with ChatGPT and it's shown.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I don't understand how it works. It's like
Yeah.
something that I don't think most of us understand.
Yep.
Of course, it's a different, like, older audience. We talked about how the average age is 58. You see these senators like in their 70s asking people about this modern technology, and they don't know what they're talking about. But it's confusing. I think it's important we make steps to try to regulate it because we don't know how much power and how much this will impact our society. It's already impacting us greatly, but it's only gonna it's gonna be an exponential change over the next 20 years.
Yeah,
So,
right now is like very small for what it could be. Like it's only gonna grow.
It will get very fast, very quick.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Me personally, I'm a big technology guy. Like I think like at the Apple VR headset.
Oh,
Cool
God,
as
don't
shit.
even get me started.
Like that's
You
cool.
gonna drive with one?
If I have
Get
$4,000 to
Subway
spend, then yeah, 100%. But I don't know enough about how they're trying to regulate AI, and like at what parts of AI are they trying to regulate is the other question.
Yeah, and that's all a good question. I think
because we've had artificial intelligence for a while, like Siri, Alexa,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. Like you can even consider like a Google search artificial intelligence if you really wanted to.
Sure, you can stretch the definition to
Yeah.
because you can make the argument that Google is.
Yeah.
Just like ChatGPT is on a whole nother level. Though.
Yeah, it's
GPT
crazy.
is
I mean, like even you look at artificial intelligence that is available in like a professional sector. Like if you're looking in sectors of like medicine, for example, like that stuff's crazy. Another level.
Yeah.
If you look at how it's being used in, you know, I know law enforcement is starting to tap into more of that artificial intelligence realm. From my experience, it's very interesting how law enforcement uses artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to tracking software. A lot of that, you know, I think a big concern for a lot of people where regulations should come into play is where are we getting the equipment that this is being run on? Because a lot of this equipment is Chinese.
Yeah, that's a
So I feel like
question.
that's something that should
I'll
be
say
looked
some
at.
aspects that annoy me. This is like just a side story. Last semester, I had to do an essay for a class. I spent like a 5-page essay. I spent hours working on it, trying to perfect and everything. My friend just used ChatGPT. He got a better grade than me.
No.
But it was very well written. They know how to write it well.
It's
so.
I have toyed around with ChatGPT.
It's
and,
getting
like,
it's
very interesting.
Spooky.
it is kind of crazy.
To
Like
me,
that shit's
like
nuts.
it just does. It still sounds robotic, but there are a lot like. To your point, a lot of
Yeah.
professors will like that. They're fine.
Kate and I are in creative writing together, and our professor
there
had
you
us
go.
like have ChatGPT write poems.
I
and
love
it's,
it.
and they're hilarious. Like it will throw in very descriptive words just because it kind of thinks that they should be there, and it does these like weird rhymes, and it's very strange.
Last semester I had a class. It was an ethics class, and it was an intelligence class, and it was on ethics of different situations, stuff like that. We had these scenarios, and my professor was like, "Put these scenarios into ChatGPT, and sort of see where it comes up." Because it was like ChatGPT is good with facts, but how is it with moral and ethical issues? Sometimes it just kind of pulled up, like it was all right, but there were a couple examples where I'm not going to go into like super grave detail, but it was interesting on what stance it took for whatever scenario that put in.
Found PDFs of ethics textbooks. And
yeah. Just
Well, it was
copy
like
and pasted them.
this was ethics of like, you know, this was ethics of intelligence. It was like if we had, you know, a high level individual and like we knew that he had information of an imminent attack, like would it be okay for torture and enhanced interrogation? And he's like, put these into ChatGPT and see what AI says. And it was interesting. It was very interesting. So sometimes it walked the line, but other times the line sort of bounced back and forth from each side, which very interesting. But like the more I thought about it, I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is concerning, because at what point is government policy going to be dictated by AI?
next
And
bill.
that's what
the
fucking
next bill
scares
in
me.
Congress.
Yeah, I
they
mean,
let
it
AI.
could be. I feel like it could be tomorrow. So, question: the president of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, Greg Lukianoff, testified before Congress recently about the dangers of regulating AI. He made the argument that this is a free speech issue because if the AI gets regulated too heavily, it could end up in, you know, all that power could be concentrated in the hands of a small few. They could use it to dictate what gets talked about, when it gets talked about, if it gets talked about at all.
Censorship of information.
Exactly. So, any thoughts on that argument
I
there?
think it comes to what way are we regulating AI? I think we should all be scared about how the government uses it. You can't tell me the military isn't studying how they can use AI.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're already using it.
They already
I'm sure
use
they
it.
have a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
version.
they-
Believe me,
They have a better
They-
version already.
they use it.
Th-
They use it.
Yeah.
Like, that scares you. Can't tell me that there aren't intelligence agencies talking about how AI can be used to surveil us and maybe work around current laws.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to talk about. Like, what about all these other issues of like I don't think you're not going to use it to like start some Terminator thing. I'm more worried about corporations using it to do things that they shouldn't do, and the way the government will use it.
I wouldn't be so concerned about the U.S. government. I'd be more concerned about foreign entities using it against the American public. Like like you said, with like working around laws are very strict in the U.S. and there's actually no real great loopholes to, you know, collect or analyze intelligence without a warrant or in a law enforcement capacity on United States citizens. But I'm more concerned about how either like an actor such as the Chinese or maybe a rogue actor can use AI against the American public. Because you can use, I mean, AI was developed by the military-industrial complex, like
As most of our things.
Yeah.
like GPS, the internet, it all was
that
like
screen.
Yeah.
like there are like viruses could be considered AI. Like you put a virus into a computer and it's going to develop. Like that's artificial intelligence technically.
Yeah.
So I mean, we did it against Iran with their their nuclear facilities and stuff like that. But I like what you said about how it could impede freedom of speech. I agree. And that also ties into these old heads in Congress having control over the narrative of what that AI can, talk about or write about or whatever. And that's what concerns me. Not so much of like they're going to use it against us, more of like how they're going to censor certain information from us. And also like what information would they censor is the other concerning thing.
Yeah.
Well, and Microsoft owns OpenAI, correct? Is that
That I don't know.
I
I
thought
don't know.
That's
Microsoft owns everything.
I don't.
they do. Okay.
Fucking thing.
Because what I'm going into is if the search engines own AI, can the search engines let the AI sort out search results that might hurt news?
If you're using Microsoft
be
Edge,
news
you're
that
just a
hurts-
beta.
No,
Google
literally,
Chrome
that's my
where
thing.
it's
Is like,
at.
does Microsoft think that GPT can save Microsoft Edge or Bing? Like,
But
enough.
if Google's your search
Enough.
engine
You don't
and
use
Google
Bing?
creates an
No.
AI, can Google's AI omit from all the search results any articles that
That
are
would hurt
harmful to
them.
Google?
Yeah, like that's
Like
well, 'cause
that's what
that's the question with all these. Like, every single one of these billionaires like owns a newspaper.
Technically
like,
speaking, I think if like Google implemented that,
That's scary.
I think I don't think it's illegal if Google put that into fruition where it was like, if you use this AI, it's gonna not show anything that's bad against Google. I don't think that's
But Google can
illegal.
charge.
I
for
don't think
that
that's
service.
is that that can't be legal. Is that
Yeah,
legal?
that's got to be legal.
I don't think it's illegal. But if the government did it,
No, that's maybe.
that's illegal.
Right.
So let's say Google starts out with protecting Google. Well, now it's a charged service. The biggest search engine in the world can charge you to omit things that are bad for you. And so maybe these are good.
It just becomes Twitter.
Yeah,
then at that point.
maybe the celebrities omit their leaked nudes from the internet and their AI porn, so nobody can see Drake's penis. But also, then what are we doing? Like, then we can have all of these companies who do bad things pay Google to omit and have AI.
I mean, I feel like that already really happens without AI. I mean, how it works with like search engines, like companies or whatever will pay Google, like when you type in, I don't know, sneakers, like Nike pays Google X amount to put Nike at the top of that list.
Yes,
we're
you do.
talking about fully omitting something that you
They
can't
technically
find.
could. They can pay Google, I think, to say like, oh, put the good stuff first and have them dig for the bad
Actually, I'm a
stuff.
little
No,
can-
Pat. No,
can
Pat.
Google,
He's
like,
saying like there is no bad stuff.
remove
Like he would.
Oh,
There's no
remove
bad
completely
stuff
remove
at
it.
all.
Google, like,
It's
does not
just
allow
the
something
good
to-
stuff.
I mean, if you search up something that says there's like, if I search up anything online, it says there's like
Yeah.
500 options, and you just scroll through each website
I'm
over
sure
and
they
over again.
could,
Can't Google
right?
just
Like it-
forcibly not?
I don't know, but here's
That's like YouTube. Remember YouTube was
then
doing
here's
that?
here's my next question. Then along the same lines is should these companies face responsibility in any capacity for the content that their AI programs come up with?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
that their AI, like the AI programs they own.
Yes. Now this is assuming that currently they're not sentient. The AI cannot think and sort of do things on its own. It is running on the code that it was programmed with. Like OpenAI has code that GPT runs on.
Yeah.
I would argue yes. If they're the ones implementing the code, running it, then yeah, I would. I would
Is your
say-
mic falling there, Cade?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sagging. I don't
Sorry,
know what
you
it's
may have to bend it in the middle there, like bend it back up,
Mhm.
so that it's we're saying going the other way, just so it's a little more. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, sorry. Who is talking? Carry on.
Right
Trevor.
here, yeah. No, I think if they're the ones, where was I going? Oh yeah. So if they're the ones implementing the code, implementing the AI, they are responsible for how that AI performs. If you are working like, if you are like, if act like Google has a coworker that like not a coworker. If Google has an employee that is like changing something with the software, they are partially responsible for that employee's actions, whether they're wrong or right. So I think AI, I mean, of course, it's not a general employee, but they are responsible for what that system is putting out there. It's not like a social media platform where you see someone post something outrageous. It's a little different, but it's just like someone that the company is fully like paying for that software, that programming, and I think they have to have some responsibility. And I think that's why you already see limitations on like ChatGPT. They won't like side on certain things. Yeah, if you ask them an inappropriate question, I imagine for the most part they would not give a response, depending on.
Yeah,
what
like the
question
Snapchat
is.
AI doesn't give me any fun answers.
Yeah.
You
The
use the Snapchat
did
AI?
anyone get the weird Snapchat AI story that popped up?
Yes, I
Yeah, I
get
got
them
the one
still, and
that-
they're crazy.
I also hate how it sits there. Like, can I get rid of it?
That's
No,
what
I got
don't
I got rid of it
think
somehow.
how do you
Where
get
is
rid
it?
of it?
I don't remember.
Can you block the Snapchat
I hope
AI?
so. It's because I'll like hit it on accident and then I see them pop up in the bottom. But I like AI is very like if you do like ask it like a research based question, it'll give you an answer. But if you ask it like I don't know, ethically,
Is America the
morally,
best country
or
in the world?
politically
Yes.
based questions, then it will kind of
Shy
Sorta.
away.
Gets a little
Yeah.
confused.
it
And
gets a little confused.
Does a little.
It's like,
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say
It's
this
like,
or not.
I don't know.
Do you guys? So the question is, should any of these? Does making the code for these AI programs open sourced? Does that make them inherently more or less dangerous? Is that a good thing, bad thing?
What do you mean by like? I'm uninformed.
Making it open source, so like anyone can
Anyone
look at
can
the code,
Yeah,
anyone
anyone
can edit the
can
code.
Yeah, it's a bad
access it,
idea.
edit it.
Bad idea. Because
Put
then
stuff
that's when
in it.
malicious actors
Yeah.
get it.
That's when you've got a sociopath who knows how to code and having a lot of fun with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
When it's-
think. Yeah. I think no.
Okay, how should AI be implemented into education?
Ooh, good question.
It could keep things relevant. I think we've got a lot of times ever been handed the 5-year-old textbook that
Yeah.
something's just completely irrelevant in.
Yes.
We could kind of live update content in classes. I mean, think of how many classes we have that the information changes
Mm-hmm.
quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
like we'll learn a number, like when Ed tells us a number in a class. Do we know if it's up to date? When was the last time he dealt with?
Yeah, you don't really.
Like,
Yeah, you don't
yeah.
really know.
I feel like the benefit of textbooks though is like a lot of that's peer reviewed before it's published. So like,
Yeah.
would AI be or like what source is that AI pulling this information from? So I don't know. I really have to like sit down and really think about how it would be
Yeah.
implemented in education because there's like what type of education, like medical education, law. The sciences like math, even like something like broadcasting or something like that. How
Yeah.
would that be implemented?
Because like if you have it come up with some number for like a history class, that's a lot different than for like a medical class.
Yeah, if you're
where-
like trying to figure out how to like combine two different sort of drugs to make another type of drug or something like that. So
Yeah.
I feel like for some classes where it's at now is beneficial, but like for more advanced stuff, it needs to also advance to that level.
Okay. You all are hypothetical situation. You all are business owners. You can use AI to run your business. Do you have a responsibility, a moral responsibility, to hire humans at your business to do essentially a worse job than the AI could?
Okay, we're going into a problem with this theory because people talk about responsibilities as business owners. You've got, I guess we can call hiring humans social responsibility, but we also talk about it depends on if it's a private business because you have a responsibility to your shareholders to make the company as profitable as possible. So then you have two conflicting responsibilities. If you're the sole owner, I think you do have a responsibility to hire humans. But the conflicting responsibilities could be interesting.
I think it depends what kind of business you're running.
Okay.
I think it's beneficial to have humans involved in a business, but I think AI can help with a lot of the more technical things. Like if it's more of like customer service based, I feel like it's good to have humans involved because like you ever try to buy something online or return something, you go through that AI chat like that.
Always so
Oh.
annoying.
All the chatbots are terrible for customer
I just type
service.
person 5 times.
Yeah,
or
it's not
so
great.
until
It
So I
comes up
feel
with like the same
Yeah.
like solution
Yeah.
time and time again, and it's like, no, I tried that. Can I just
Yeah,
speak to
can I just
someone?
talk to somebody?
So-
But if it's something based, maybe if it's like if you're running a business and it's more like finance based, I feel like it's better off to have a computer be doing that, especially if it's like, if you are like a tax auditor or something, or if you're running a tax business, or like maybe you're, some sort of, financial computing, or like giving people financial advice. I feel like it's better to have more computer based than just human based.
I think when it comes down to it, you need to prepare for America. You have to prepare the American public for the future.
Yeah.
Technology is always changing. AI is going to eliminate, in all honesty, probably a lot of jobs in our current market. And that's why you have to focus on encouraging people to up their human capital. Maybe encourage more people to go to college, because there's jobs that are going to be soon replaced. And this always happens. If you go back like 100 years ago, I mean, radio was much more popular. What's a telegram people used?
Yeah.
Those industries are almost it's dead now. So
Yeah,
you
the
always have
horse industry is pretty much
Yeah.
gone because of cars. Like that was the thing. Like there were a lot of people that were raising horses, selling horses, sort of taking care of them, and then the
Their
car
jobs
came around
just
and
got wiped out.
yeah, that's not a thing
You
anymore.
got to constantly update the market, make sure people
Yeah.
are prepared for the future. Because at the end of the day, I remember I worked at a grocery store, and you would have all the registers and everything. Now you have self checkouts in all these
Yeah.
places. I mean, that's just one example. Truck drivers, it's a very important industry in our world, and I might sadly replace that in the future. You just have to prepare these people for other jobs, and AI is going to replace a lot. The workforce is going to change drastically, even in the next 10 years. And what we have to focus on is preparing people for new aspects of the industry, making sure people are prepared to switch careers, informing them of whether you need to up your human capital through college education, trade schools, different programs.
Yeah.
We just have to make sure people are prepared for this change. I don't know if I honestly don't know what to expect, but at the end of the day, that's what's important.
Yeah, I agree. Like this,
prepared.
like the more implementation of AI will, close out a lot of jobs, but in the same turn, it's going to open up a lot of jobs because like you'll need humans to, support that infrastructure that AI runs on. Like, because AI is going to have massive computer grids and stuff like that. Like, you need somebody to service that. Or, like, even now, like, there's still AI in hospitals and stuff like that. But you need, like, techs to go and, make sure if something breaks in the machine, you got to fix the machine.
Right.
Like, you got to go to a trade school. You got to go to college for that. So I feel like there's a vast benefit. But I feel like if people don't want to change, then it's not going to benefit because no one's going to, move into those new sectors of support for this new technology.
And in your theoretical scenario, say I cut jobs at my company in half by the use of AI. I think I can ethically excuse that if I use the money I'm saving to give my other employees raises. Say I've got self-checkout's a perfect example. Say I've got 20 people in a store all making $15 an hour. I can cut half of them by introducing self-checkout. Should I not raise their pay to $20-25 an hour? I'm still saving $5 an hour. Yeah, AI is going to have some costs. I'll have to account for that, but I can give them a $5 an hour raise with the money I've saved. So you have to go about it right. If you do it in not a non-greedy fashion, I think it's okay because you've then replaced half your jobs with making your other half better.
I like that.
I think that's all I got. You have any final thoughts, guys?
No?
On this topic or in general?
Both.
Oh, it's the end. Okay.
Yeah.
Terrorism bad.
Terrorism bad.
There's my
We don't
takeaway.
like airstrikes.
Airstrikes bad.
Isn't bad.
Let's see here.
Nuclear weapons.
Oh, I've
bad?
got one more question. One more question here. Are the liberals going to use AI to brainwash the kids?
No, Taylor Swift.
That's just a bit. That's not a real question that we're
Taylor
talking about
Swift
here.
already
No.
has.
And we're not getting into Taylor Swift.
This
Thanks
is not
for
a
doing this.
conspiracy theory podcast.
Yeah.
It could be.
Thanks for doing this, guys. This was a lot of fun.
I was going to say, I appreciate the dialogue. I think it's interesting hearing new perspectives on everything, whether it's like the wars going on in Russia, Ukraine, and Israel and Palestine, or if it's just learning more about AI, because that's something I'm very uninformed about.
I
So
don't know anything about
I think
AI.
it's you don't
It's
know.
like I don't really know much about it. It's like last time when we had the
Yeah.
nuclear energy or whatever it was.
Yeah, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Should we all get a picture together and put it on Instagram? And the caption should be the real geopolitical experts.
Yeah.
Should that be the
Saving
caption?
the world one podcast. At a
Make
time.
sure
Yeah.
we will.
good slogan.
We will be Biden's
actually
next
so
president.
good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to do that. All right, thanks guys. I appreciate it. Bye everybody.
Woohoo.